Welcome to session 3 of Holding Hope. And in this session today, I invite you to start in a seated shape. I'll show you my setup here. I have some blankets underneath me, and this is especially helpful if you have tight hip flexors or feel maybe just overall uncomfortable sitting directly on the floor. You could also use a bolster, but if you don't have a bolster, you could utilize some blankets. I've created a little bit of a ledge here, and then I've placed an additional blanket on top. So you could find a seat, maybe utilizing some blankets or towels or a bolster, or maybe even a meditation pillow, whatever you have on hand. And here you could come into a cross-legged shape. However, if this does not feel welcome to your body for whatever reason, you could also explore having the soles of the feet together and touching, as well as maybe even extending the legs out in front of you. So you choose what is going to most support you in this moment. And I welcome you to come into your seat of choice, and feel into your body for just a moment, settling in and observing if there's any changes your body would like to make, any alterations to this shape, and if so, I welcome you to make those changes. And if it feels safe, you might even decide to close down the eyes. And you could always choose to leave the eyes open or take them open at any time. Everything in this class is an invitation, and you reserve the right to accept or decline any invitation at any time. No questions asked. And so as we settle in here, I welcome you to scan through your spine. So you might even start at the very bottom base of your spine, the tailbone, and then work your way up the spine, one vertebra at a time, or maybe sections of the spine, such as low back, middle of the back, and so forth. Noticing what shape your spine is making. Noticing how it feels to be seated here. Moving all the way up the spine with your awareness until you reach your neck and even the base of your skull. And just pausing here for a few breaths as I offer you a poem for contemplation for this practice today, as well as an affirmation. The poem is by Cleo and it's titled, Feast on It. Your healing is on its way to you. Have you made room for its arrival? Turn on the lights, turn up the music. Let it know that you are home, that you are ready for your new day, that you believe your new day belongs to you. You deserve your healing. Feast on it. Perhaps you allow those words to settle in a little bit deeper, maybe mulling them over for contemplation. What could it feel like to welcome in your healing? Perhaps you've been on this journey for some time, or maybe you feel that you're just starting to take a peek. No matter where you are on this journey, You are welcome here. I offer you a community affirmation if you'd like to work with it, based on this poem. And it is simply, I am deserving of my healing. I am deserving of my healing. And if that doesn't feel completely true to you, if that doesn't feel that it aligns, you might even fill in the blank. I am deserving of blank. I am deserving of joy. I am deserving of love. I am deserving of peace. Whatever it is that you would like to be true for you right now, or hold it as an exploration of truth. If it doesn't feel completely true just yet, that's okay. And so, if you'd like, you could take a deep breath into the affirmation of your choice. And with your next inhale, perhaps you allow your spine to float up a little bit, finding some space here. And as you exhale, you might allow your chin to drop down toward your chest. Perhaps finding some stillness here. Maybe noticing any sensation in the back of the neck, or even in between the shoulder blades. And you might choose to stay right here at stillness, or you might decide to rock the head from left to right, noticing how this might change the sensation or even where you feel the effect of this movement and stretch. An option to be here for the next 2 or 3 breaths. One more breath here at your own pace. And if you'd like, you could come back to center when you feel complete with the chin towards the chest. And in your own timing, you could lift the head right back up to center, taking a moment of pause to feel any effect of this stretch. Maybe even rolling through the shoulders a little bit, if it feels welcome. And I'll meet you back at center. And with our head here at center, option 2, allow your right ear to come down toward your right shoulder, opening up the left side of your neck. Or if you prefer to start on the left side, you could do that too. And as we pause here, you might tune in to the open side of your neck. Notice what's present for you. Option to stay right here, or if you'd like, you could take the open side arm. So if your right ear is toward your right shoulder, you could take your left hand, left arm, and swim it back, bringing the back of your hand to the base of your spine. Noticing how adding this little bit of opening to your shoulder might alter any feeling that you're receiving in this open side of your neck. So you could try it if you want. And if it serves you, then I invite you to stay here for another 3 breaths. And if it does not serve you, you could let it go at any time. Final breath here. And if you have your hand at the base of your spine, you might release it if you're ready to be done with this shape. And slowly bring your head back to center. And taking a pause. Observing what's present for you. And if you're ready for the next side, you might allow your left ear or the opposite ear to come down toward your shoulder. Maybe you stay right here. Maybe you swim your right hand back toward the base of your spine. Options to explore this shape for the next 3 rounds of breath. 3 inhales, 3 exhales. Starting to find completion here. And you might choose to stay here longer if this shape is serving you. And if you're ready to leave, you could allow your hand to come back forward and allow your neck to come back to center, taking a pause, maybe even a few shoulder rolls, but just noticing. Option to even bring your hands up to your neck or your shoulders if you want, and massage the neck muscles, massage the tops of the shoulders if that feels welcome. And just taking a moment to show some kindness to your body. The next couple breaths. You might even bring to mind the affirmation that you created for yourself. Perhaps it was the community affirmation. I am deserving of my healing. Or maybe it was, I am deserving of, fill in the blank. And if you feel complete here, you might come back to center. And option 1 is to stay in this seated shape and maybe placing your hands on the tops of your legs. You could explore some spinal rolls. So that looks like just creating a big circle or a small circle, even, doesn't matter what size the circles are. Or if being in this seated shape and taking these spinal circles perhaps feels a little bit restrictive, or you just would rather take it in a different shape, then you might come onto your knees, so in a tabletop shape. So 2 choices here. You could stay in the seated shape, or you could come into tabletop. Same movement, different orientation. So if you'd like to visit it from tabletop, you might begin to allow your spine to sink down toward the floor and roll it over to one side and roll it up toward the sky and the opposite side. So these are also known as barrel rolls, but whatever we call them, the movement, the action is just to create these big circles with your spine, moving your body in a way that you might not typically move your body in the course of the day. And if this movement doesn't feel welcome to your body, you might choose to move organically instead, moving in any way that does feel welcome to your spine. And if at any time you want to change the direction of your circles, you could do so. Option to take another 2 rounds of breath here. last one. Perhaps you come back to center, taking a moment to just notice how your spine might feel. And if you are in a seated shape, you could join me in a tabletop. And coming into tabletop, you might begin to walk your hands forward a little bit so that they're not so much underneath your shoulders anymore, just to create a little bit of space. And as we breathe in, we could find our way there. And as you breathe out, you might begin to lower yourself down onto your stomach. Two options here. Option one, you might leave your hands where they are and press your hands into the earth and roll the shoulders and the heart space open for Cobra. A second option is to slide your hands forward, coming in to Sphinx. And so Sphinx, we have our elbows on the floor and our hands planted on the mat. And here, check in with your lower back. We'll be revisiting this little flow a couple times during class, so I'll just take a few minutes to kind of break it down here. Check in with your lower back here if you are in Sphinx or even Cobra, and notice, is there any pinching in the lower back, any tightening, feels kind of not good? Then option to take an engaged form of this shape, and that would be to engage your quads. And so a good way to kind of find that action is to engage the muscles of the quads and press the tops of the feet into the floor. And then here you might bring your tailbone into your awareness and point the tailbone down toward your heels. And then notice, it's a very small action, but the feeling in your lower back could be completely different, especially if you have a sensitive low back. So anytime we come into a back bend or a heart opening shape such as this, just know that you have the option to take an engaged version of it or a relaxed version of it. Okay, so we'll take a breath in and a breath out. And if you are in Sphinx and you're ready to leave this shape, you could release the muscles in the legs and slide the hands back. And if you're ready, you could press your hands into the floor and rock yourself up. Option one, you could find your way into a child's shape. You might have the hands extended as your hips come back toward your heels. Maybe your forehead rests on the floor, or maybe you keep your gaze lifted. You could even slide your elbows back for some stability here. So option one is child's shape of your choice. There's so many ways you could be in this shape. Option two is tuck your toes and lift the hips for downward facing dog. So two choices here, lots of variations though. And if you are in down dog, you might even bend into your knees one at a time, releasing one heel down toward the earth and then the other. If you'd like to pedal out the feet, or you could always find stillness. So your choice, what feels welcome to your body here in this moment. And we'll take one more full round of breath. Perhaps you breathe in through your nose and out of your mouth. And if you are in down dog, you could begin to bring the knees back to the earth. And if you are in child's shape, you could rock yourself forward, and I'll meet you in a tabletop. An option here to extend your right leg out to the side, out to the right. And you could point your toes in any direction, But if you notice that maybe you have some ankle discomfort or have a hard time stabilizing your right foot, you might even blade the right foot and allow the toes to point forward. However, it's completely up to you, and you can try even different ways and see what works best for your body. So you could choose to stay right here, maybe observing the right leg. Or if you'd like to take some movement, you could plant your left hand on the mat, and as you breathe in, you could allow your right arm and right shoulder to peel back towards the sky, reaching the fingertips up. Perhaps you stay right here in stillness, exploring this shape. Or if you prefer movement, you could allow the arm and the hand to come back down. And inhale, maybe working with your breath, open right back up. Taking a few more of these rhythmic movements at your own pace or stillness. Option to take 2 more. And when you're ready, you could bring your right hand down to the floor. And here, you might simply rock back and forth a little bit. And as you rock, if you choose to, you might bring some awareness to your extended leg. Maybe noticing a difference in sensation as you rock forward and back. Option to stay right here in this movement, or if you want to take the next shape with me, you could find some engagement about 50% in your core, and this is just to protect the lower back. So it doesn't even have to be 100%. It could be about 50. And we'll start to walk the hands forward, and you might even allow your forehead to come down toward the mat. It might not touch the mat, and that's okay. Maybe it just floats there. But either way, you could maintain just the 50% engagement in your core to keep your spine nice and stable. And you could leave this shape at any time, but if you'd like to stay here longer with me, you might take another 1 to 2 rounds of breath. Perhaps noticing your body heating up a little bit. And if you're ready to leave this shape, you could lift the head to look at the hands and shift your hips forward and then walk your hands back. If you're ready to pull the right leg back in, option to do so. And we'll start to lower down onto our stomachs again. Take your time. There's no rush here. Option for Cobra, or you might slide your hands forward and find sphinx shape. Maybe you engage your legs. Maybe you take a more passive approach to this shape. Take what you need. Leave behind whatever you don't need. I welcome you to take 1 breath in here and an exhale out. And if you're ready, if you're in Sphinx, you could slide your hands back and press your hands into the floor and rock yourself back. Option here for child's shape. Child's shape again is to allow the toes to touch and the hips to come back toward the heels. Maybe you keep your gaze lifted or let it come down. Second option is to tuck the toes and find your version of down dog. If you are wanting to explore down dog, but maybe your hamstrings are feeling really tight, you might explore taking your feet as wide as your mat and noticing what that difference in stance might do for the sensation and the feeling of this shape in down dog. And wherever you're at, you might take one more breath here with me. And whenever you're ready to release, whether it be now or later, you could allow the knees to come back down toward the floor. And if you are in child's shape, you might rock yourself forward. I'm going to turn on my mat just to show you a different angle, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Okay. If you are ready to take the same sequence just on the other side, you could extend your left leg out toward the side. Taking a moment to set up as needed. You might even notice automatically if there's a difference of feeling in this left leg compared to your right leg. And if so, it's totally normal. So option to stay right here, or option to plant your right hand. And as you breathe in, you might reach the left arm, open and up towards the sky. Maybe stillness is preferable, or maybe movement is preferable. You decide. Can you create a rhythm here with your breath? Even if you are in stillness, your breath continues moving. So even if you're in stillness, there is still a rhythm to be created, to be tapped into here. Option to take one more breath in and out. And when you're ready, you could release the left hand down. And again, maybe rocking back and forth. Checking in on your left hip, your left leg, noticing whatever is present for you. You could stay in this rocking motion if this is serving you, or if you'd like, you might find some engagement in your core. And then option to walk your hands forward. And allow your chest, your head, your shoulders to descend down toward the mat. However, because we are engaging in the core to protect the spine, your upper body probably won't really touch the mat. Mine definitely isn't. However, your forehead might float down to touch the mat, and that's okay too. Remember that you can leave this shape at any time, or you can forgo it completely. Or if you'd like to stay in this shape with me, I invite you to be here for another 1 to 2 breaths. And if you're ready to leave this shape, you could lift your head, look at your hands, shift your hips forward, and then walk your hands back. If you're ready, you could pull your left leg back in. And we'll take one last flow, or variation of vinyasa, if you will. And so if you'd like to join me, you could begin to lower on down toward your mat. Option for Cobra shape here, keeping the hands where they are and just lifting up. Or you might shift your hands forward, bringing your elbows to the earth for Sphinx. Your choice if you'd like to engage the legs or not, point the tailbone down, or you could stay exactly where you are if this feels welcome to your body. This is a very big heart opener here. And so as this is our last one, might you take a conscious breath into your heart space, welcoming in fresh energy, and a big exhale out of the mouth, clearing out of anything old, stuffy, dusty, anything no longer serving you. And if you're ready to release, you could draw the hands back toward you and press your hands into the floor, rocking back. Perhaps you take a downward facing dog, or perhaps you find a child's shape. In whatever version best suits you. Three optional breaths here. Perhaps bringing your affirmation to the front of your heart space. I am deserving of my healing. I am deserving of joy. I'm deserving of love. I am deserving of connection and compassion. I am deserving of goodness. And if these affirmations don't necessarily feel true to you in this moment, that's okay. You don't have to force something that doesn't feel true. But I do invite you to hold these statements, these affirmations as a possibility, something to kind of try on for size. Recognizing what comes up for you as you do so. Is there resistance? And if so, can the resistance be welcome here as well? Does it strike a chord in a different way? This idea of you being deserving of healing and goodness. Option to stay right here in this child's shape for as long as you like. Or if you are ready to move on, you might begin to lift the head and rock yourself forward. I welcome you to come into a seated shape of your choice. And you might utilize your blankets or other props that you have on hand, because we'll be here for a few shapes. And so you could come into this seated shape of your choice, and we'll begin to prepare to take a forward fold. So, a couple options. You could cross your legs, and we could visit a forward fold this way. However, if this is not welcome to your body, there's another option. You could always bring the soles of your feet together, and maybe that is a bit more helpful to you in this moment. If you do bring the soles of the feet together and this shape feels a little bit vulnerable, you might take a blanket and just drape it over your lap, creating a little bit of covering and hopefully a bit more safety. When I cross my legs in this shape, I do it a little bit different. And that's just because it's a preference of mine for my body. And so what I do, and this might also be helpful to you, so I'll just show you. Rather than having the ankles crossed and one foot directly underneath my shin and the other foot, and there's like this layering happening, what feels better in my body So this is what I do, is I separate the feet. And so technically there isn't one foot directly underneath the other and the bones aren't crossing and putting pressure on each other. So it doesn't matter how you do it. This is just another option if maybe you want to try it and perhaps this feels best in your body. But wherever you're at, I welcome you to find your seat. And as you do so, you might bring some awareness back into the spine. Perhaps even allowing the spine to float up a little bit, noticing this creation of space. And you might decide to stay right here. No forward fold necessary if this is serving you. Or if you would like to take the forward fold, you might begin to walk your hands forward. Noticing here that you control how much of the shape that you are in. So if you don't feel that you want to walk your hands very far out, you don't have to. You could keep your hands right here, closer to your seat. If there's somewhere in between, you could also walk your hands a little bit further out and so forth. The point is that you control the stretch. You control how much you feel here in this moment. If the stretch feels really overwhelming and like too much, you could walk your hands back a little bit and notice how that changes things, if it makes it a bit more welcome rather than unbearable. And we'll be here for another 4 rounds of breath. However, you can choose to leave at any time. And as we're here for the next 3 breaths, could you bring some awareness to where you're feeling this effect of this shape? Perhaps it's on one side more than the other, or maybe it's in a very specific spot of your body. And as you begin to reach your 4th breath, you might decide if you want to stay in this shape longer. Or if you're ready to leave this shape, you could lift the head and start to walk your hands back, taking your time. Coming back to center. And just taking a pause. If you had your legs crossed, or I guess they would still be crossed, you might look down at your legs and notice. If you want to take this on the other side, you would just change the cross of your legs. So whichever one was in back will now be in front. And if you were in a butterfly shape, then you could continue to stay there, or you might even extend the legs out in front of you if you prefer to visit a different forward fold. We can allow the spine to float up, kind of exploring what it feels like to take up a bit more space. You might even allow your shoulders to drop down and back. observing what this feels like to be unapologetic in taking up space, not needing to hide or curl in, but knowing that in this moment, in this practice, you are the captain of the ship. You are in control here. And if you'd like to take the forward fold with me on the side, you could begin to walk your hands forward. And again, you control how much you feel here. And this side, if you have your legs crossed and you change the cross of your legs, this side might feel really different compared to the previous side. And if so, what feels different? Is it intensity level? Is it a location of the body? My teacher always says that the two sides of the body are siblings, not twins, which means that they are not identical. They are similar, but they are not always exactly the same, if ever. Option to take another 1 to 2 rounds of breath here. And you can choose if you want to stay or if you want to go. And if you want to go, you can start to lift your head and walk your hands back. What is present for you right here, right now? What's present for your body and your heart? Option to extend the legs out in front of you. I'm going to turn on my mat so that you can see me a little bit better, but you can stay where you are. And we'll have one more forward fold opportunity here. However, you can choose, do you want your feet touching and together? Do you want them hip distance apart? Or do you even maybe want to take your feet out as wide as your mat, or maybe even wider? So how you take this forward fold, how you take this stance is completely up to you. And depending on where you place your legs will change the location of the stretch in your body. I'm going to choose to have my feet hip distance apart. And you could keep your legs completely straight if you want, or if you know that your hamstrings are pretty tight, it might be helpful to add just a little micro bend here in the knee, a little bit of space in between the knee and the floor. And so, if you're ready, you might return to this floating up of the spine, starting to get a little bit more comfortable with taking up space. And we'll breathe in together. And as you exhale, you might begin to come down toward your legs. And you could reach for your shins or the ankles, or if you have a very wide stance, you might simply just bring your hands to the floor right in front of you. And you could choose to be in stillness here, or if being in stillness doesn't feel welcome, you could always add a little bit of movement, maybe inhaling your chest up a little bit, kind of like a halfway lift, and then an exhale to fold back into your fold. Maybe you find a rhythm with your breath if you want to take some movement. Inhaling up Exhaling down. Perhaps you take another round of breath here, in and out. And you can stay here longer, as always, or you can find your way out by lifting the head, walking the hands back. And option 2, roll through the ankles, maybe point and flex the toes. And then you can find a seat of your choice as we start to finish up our practice with a pranayama practice, a breathwork practice. And I do want to let you know that this breath practice that we are about to explore is very activating for the ventral vagus nerve, which is really wonderful for many reasons. However, if you know that you are extremely sensitive to fainting or dizzy spells, this might not be a breath practice that serves you well. So just a word to the wise, if you know that you're sensitive in those areas, please forego this breath practice, and you might choose to instead just simply bring awareness to your natural breath as it moves in its own easeful way in and out. So with that being said, you could return back to this taking up of space with your spine, allowing your spine to float up. And we will go through the breath practice 3 different times. And each time we'll have a breath in between to kind of reset and kind of tune in. Because if you take one breath and you notice, whoa, that was kind of powerful, you don't have to move on to the other 2 breaths. You could just take that one and say, okay, I experienced it. Or if you find that this is very supportive to you, you could take the next 2. Really, it's whatever you want it to be, but there will be opportunities and little pauses in between to decide, do I want to move forward or do I want to stay here? And so for this first time, before we get to the 3, I'm going to demonstrate. And so for just right now, don't practice, just watch. And I'll show you because it's a little difficult to cue when I'm in the breath practice with you. So in this demonstration, we'll start at center, and we would breathe in as we drop the chin down toward the chest. And then as you exhale, you would stick out your tongue and breathe out as you lift your head up. When you get to the top, close the mouth, breathe in, and exhale to bring your head back to center. And so that is our demonstration. It's very activating. I can feel it already. And so now I will guide you through 3 of those breaths with pauses in between. So if you'd like to join me, you can come meet me here at center, and we'll just take 1 natural, easeful breath in and out. And with your next inhale, you could drop the chin toward the chest. Tongue out, exhale, head up. Close the mouth, breathe in. Exhale, center. Take a pause here, noticing what's present. If you want to continue on, inhale, chin to chest. Tongue out, exhale up. Close mouth, inhale. Exhale, center. Pause here. Last round if you want to join. Inhale, chin to chest. Tongue out. Exhale up. Close the mouth. Inhale. Exhale, center. Take some time to observe. You might feel a sense of energy building in your chest or even the base of the skull. You might feel some tingliness in your arms or perhaps somewhere else. All of these sensations are normal, to be expected. And you could decide to stay here in this seated shape for the remainder of our rest time. Or if you know that you'd like to come into a different shape for your time of rest, then you could start to set that up now. This time of rest is completely up to you, how you want to position your body. And you could choose to lie on your back, your stomach, on your side, whatever allows you to feel safe and supported, utilizing any props that would help you rest in this time. If you decide to lay on your back and your lower back feels a little tender or tight, you could draw the knees in toward the chest and perhaps rock a little bit from side to side, giving your lower back a little massage. And then if and when you feel ready, if you are laying on your back, you might decide to put your feet on the floor. You could stay right here, maybe allowing the knees to fall in toward one another. You could even allow the feet to create a little bit of a wider base by taking the feet out wider so that the knees can fall in toward each other without much effort. Or you could decide to extend the legs out. There's no right or wrong here. This time of rest is completely yours to do with as you wish. You might decide to close the eyes or keep them open. And here, as we enter this time, could you extend to yourself a moment of recognition, a moment of just acknowledging the fact that you showed up to this practice, you showed up to your mat. This is honestly sometimes a courageous act to show up and be with yourself. You did it. You're here. And I'll be quiet now for the remainder of this time of rest. And just know that I am keeping an eye on the clock and we'll be here together for the next 3 to 4 minutes. I'm right here with you, even though I'm silent. If you feel that we're still reaping the benefits of this time of rest, or maybe even just getting started, I welcome you to stay here as long as you want. There's no rush to move away from this time. Or if you are ready to be done here, you might begin to add some movement into your body. Perhaps finding your way over to rest on one side, taking a moment of pause. And I'd like to read to you the poem that we explored at the beginning of class. Your healing is on its way to you. Have you made room for its arrival? Turn on the lights, turn up the music. Let it know that you are home, that you are ready for your new day, that you believe your new day belongs to you. You deserve your healing. Feast on it. If you're ready to press yourself up, I'll meet you there. You might decide to bring your hands to heart center, or you might choose to leave your hands resting in your lap. And if you'd like, you could take one collective breath in and out with me. We'll start with an exhale, and we'll breathe in together. It is my hope for you that you feel safe, connected, and at home in your body. Thank you for practicing with me today in this session, Holding Hope. And if you have any questions or any comments about your experience with this series, I invite you to comment or message me, email me, whatever is best for you. I am here to support. Thank you.